He never imagined that one sentence spoken in a moment of fear would echo through the next 4 years of his life. Yet the night he told her, "We're not meant to be," became the dividing line between everything he thought he understood and everything he didn't know he would one day ache for. Adrian Hale had always been the kind of man who controlled outcomes, shaped futures, and built empires from nothing but determination. But nothing had prepared him for the way Lena's eyes looked just before she walked out of his office. Steady, gentle, and full of a hurt she refused to let him see break her. That image stayed with him far longer than he admitted. He remembered how her fingers trembled slightly as she tried to keep her voice calm. "Adrian, I'm not asking for promises. I'm just asking for honesty." It was such a simple request. Yet it felt impossible for a man who had spent years treating emotions like distractions and affection like a risk he couldn't afford. She wanted closeness, he wanted control. She offered heart, he offered distance. And instead of facing the truth, that she meant more to him than anything he'd ever built, he took the safer path. The colder path. The one that required no vulnerability. He told himself he was choosing ambition, choosing focus, choosing the future he had worked tirelessly for. But as the door closed behind her, he felt something he didn't know how to name. Not regret. Not yet. More like a quiet unraveling, a thread slipping loose somewhere deep inside him. He tried to ignore it, tried to bury himself in spreadsheets and deals, tried to convince himself he had made a logical decision. Yet every time he sat in that office alone, the silence felt different, as if a presence that once softened the edges of his world had been erased. And the worst part was that he had erased it himself. The night she left didn't feel like the end of a relationship. It felt like the beginning of a consequence he wasn't prepared to face. One life would eventually force him to confront in a way he never expected. 4 months passed before Adrian realized he had started searching for her without meaning to. Not actively, not desperately, just quietly in the moments when his mind wandered where he didn't want it to go. It happened in small ways at first. He'd step into the lobby and expect to see her adjusting her scarf the way she always did on cold mornings. He'd hear laughter in the hallway and instinctively turn, thinking it might be hers. He would catch the glimpse of someone with her posture, her hair, her familiar gentleness, and for a second, hope would flicker before reality dimmed it again. But the real moment, the one that unsettled him, came on a Thursday evening when he stayed late at the office. He opened his cabinet searching for a file and instead found the mug she had once gifted him. A simple ceramic cup with a tiny mountain drawn on its side and the words, "Climb, don't run." At the time, he thought it was unnecessary sentiment. Now it felt like a message he had ignored. He sat down, holding the mug, realizing something he didn't want to admit. He didn't miss comfort. He didn't miss routine. He missed her. Her calm presence. Her way of softening tension without trying. Her ability to look straight at him and see past everything he hid behind success. He told himself it was just nostalgia, but the truth felt heavier. Lena hadn't just walked away from his life, she had taken a part of it with her. And the space she left behind was beginning to feel bigger than anything he had achieved. It was a single comment, careless, passing, almost insignificant, that finally cracked the calm surface he had been pretending to hold together. During a meeting, one of his managers mentioned seeing Lena weeks ago in a small town 2 hours away. She looked different, he said. Tired but strong. Focused on working, not talking. Adrian kept his expression controlled, but something inside him reacted instantly, tightening in a way he couldn't hide from himself. He dismissed the meeting early, claiming a headache, though what he felt was nothing like pain. It was something deeper, sharper. A feeling he had no training to manage. That night, he found himself driving without direction, the city lights sliding past like fragments of a life that didn't fit him anymore. He didn't understand why hearing about her unsettled him so much. Why did it matter where she lived? Why did it matter if she was struggling? Why did it matter that she wasn't reaching out to him, when he was the one who had pushed her away? The questions echoed in his chest, soft but relentless. He parked near the waterfront, the night air cool against his skin, and for the first time in years, he allowed himself to be still. In the silence, he remembered moments he had tried to forget. The way she waited for him after exhausting days, the warm patience she offered when he shut down, the quiet belief she had in him even when he doubted himself. He thought letting her go was strength. But now, sitting alone in a city that once felt like his kingdom, he began to wonder if turning away from her had been the moment his life stopped growing. And a quiet truth settled over him. He wasn't just missing her. He was missing the version of himself that only existed when she was near. News travels in strange ways. Never when you want it, always when you're least prepared. For Adrian, It arrived on a calm morning that should have been ordinary. He overheard two receptionists talking softly near the elevators. One of them mentioned a community event in the same small town Lena had moved to. The other added a detail that froze him mid-step. She brought children with her. 2 little boys. Both with the same bright blue eyes. Something in him jolted, an instinctive, powerful pull he didn't understand yet. Blue eyes. His eyes. The thought hit him too quickly, too sharply. He told himself it was coincidence. It had to be. But the idea lingered, haunting the edges of his mind throughout the day. He tried to focus on meetings, on numbers, on anything that didn't involve memory or emotion. Yet every time he blinked, he saw Lena's gentle smile, and the possibility he had never imagined. That evening, he found himself standing in his penthouse as if the walls were suddenly too close. His reflection stared back at him, a successful man, a disciplined leader, yet undeniably restless. He felt an urge he had spent years suppressing, the urge to seek, to understand, to face the truth he once ran from. But what frightened him most wasn't the idea of children. It was the question he couldn't silence. Had she built a life without him? A family without him? A future that never once needed his presence? The uncertainty pressed against him like a weight he no longer had the strength to ignore. Something inside him whispered that he was standing on the edge of a revelation, one that could shatter him or save him. And for the first time in 4 years, Adrian realized he wanted answers, not control. He wanted clarity more than comfort. He wanted to know what or whom he had truly lost. He didn't plan the trip. One moment he was pacing his living room, and the next he was behind the wheel, driving toward the town he had spent months pretending not to think about. Every mile felt heavier, as if the road itself were forcing him to acknowledge truths he had buried under ambition and pride. He tried to rehearse what he would say if he saw her, but every attempt collapsed into silence. How does a man apologize for a choice he made out of fear? How does he face the consequences of turning away from the only person who ever reached the parts of him he never understood? When he arrived, the town felt softer than the city he ruled, slower, quieter, untouched by the constant rush that had shaped his entire life. He parked near a small community center, drawn by the sound of children laughing. His heartbeat grew uneven, not from fear, but from anticipation he couldn't suppress. He stepped closer, standing near a fence where volunteers were setting up tables. And then he saw her. Lena. She was kneeling beside 2 boys, helping them arrange art supplies. The sunlight caught her hair, giving her a warm glow that made his chest tighten. But it was the boys who rooted him in place, 2 small faces turning toward her with unmistakable affection. And yes, they had blue eyes. Clear, bright, familiar. His breath caught. He didn't move. Couldn't. He watched as one boy tugged her sleeve, calling for her attention with a soft excitement that pierced him more deeply than anything he'd ever faced in a boardroom. They were happy. They were secure. They were hers. A strange mix of awe and regret washed over him. These were moments he had never been part of. Lives he hadn't known existed. And as he stood there, silent, unseen, shaken, one truth hit him harder than all the rest. If he had stayed, if he had chosen courage instead of fear, he might have been standing beside her instead of watching from a distance. He didn't expect her to look up. He didn't expect their eyes to meet across a space filled with laughter and sunlight. Yet when Lena finally turned, her gaze collided with his, and the world around him seemed to fall away. She froze for only a second, but that second was enough to reveal everything he had tried to ignore. The surprise, the guarded calm, the strength she had built in his absence. She didn't look angry. She didn't look broken. She looked whole. And somehow, that hurt more than he was prepared for. Before he could decide what to do, one of the boys noticed him. The child tilted his head curiously, studying Adrian with an expression that felt painfully familiar. Then the other turned too, gripping Lena's hand as he whispered something soft. Adrian felt his breath falter. Their blue eyes, clear reflections of his own, met his with innocent curiosity, unaware of the storm unraveling inside him. Lena stood slowly, her posture steady, protective, gentle. Adrian took a hesitant step forward, feeling like he was approaching a part of his life he had abandoned long before he understood its value. He didn't know what to say. No apology felt big enough. No explanation felt honest enough. All he felt was a quiet truth rising inside him. He had walked away from the very future he now found himself longing for. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost unsure. Lena, I didn't know. She held his gaze, her expression soft but unyielding. You never asked, she replied gently. There was no bitterness. Just truth. A truth he had avoided for years. In that moment, as the boys tugged at her sleeve and she looked down at them with a tenderness that steadied the world, Adrian understood something life had spent 4 years trying to teach him. Success had never been about what he built with his hands, but what he nurtured with his heart. And he had let the most important part slip away. Yet standing there, watching the family he had never known existed, he felt a strange flicker of hope, not because he deserved a second chance, but because he finally understood what he had lost. And understanding, he realized, was the first step toward becoming the man he should have been all along.